Spoonos modeling in AkuShaper. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the creation of a Spoonos longboard in AkuShaper using our latest features to ensure you keep a smooth rail line, both on the apex and the tuck. To start modeling, try to find a template that fits closely to the board that you're modeling. So in this case, I'm gonna start from the 9/6 longboard, which already features some kind of a Spoonos, but we're gonna model our own in this tutorial. First, we will start by cleaning up the board and removing the slices that we don't need. So in this case, we're gonna delete the spoon slice and we're gonna delete everything but the center slice. If you're now looking at the bay, we can see we start off with a pretty basic board. We're gonna smooth out the outline and the rocker as well, just to make sure we start from a clean board. So let's clean up the outline. When looking at the outline, you see we have two blue control points defining our curve. Typically, we want to use as little of those points as we can. So we can use the fitting to guide point feature, and in version 2.6, we have a new feature called generate from curve. It generates the guide points basically from the existing curve. It puts them at 6 inches from the tail, 1 foot off, 2 feet off, and the same for the nose, and also our wide point. Once we have our control points, we can start, our guide points, we can start removing the control points on our outline. Now we can enable the fit to guide points, and you can see it fit a single segment through our points, but the fit is not really good. So to match this shape, a single segment is not enough. In this case, we need to start adding the wide point first. So let's add a wide point and make sure it is on our guide point. We can do this manually, or we can type it in the bottom right tab here. Let's see how this fits. Re-enable the fitting to guide points, and now our outline curve is flowing very smoothly through our points. So 1 point is enough in this case. For our rocker, we pretty much do the same thing. Guide points, edit guide points, generate from curve. We have our points. We can delete the center point, enable the fitting, fits our bottom rocker, and we do the same for the top. Guide points, edit guide points, generate from curve, remove that center point, refit everything, and now we have a nicely flowing foil for our longboard. Before we start adding our spoon nose, we are best to make sure that our center slice, the one that we left, is looking the way we like it. What we can see is that we have a slight roll, a slightly rolled V. If you click on this point, you can see it's 1/16 of an inch up, and our yellow point is slightly downwards. And you can see that in our contour highlighting feature in the bay. You can see there is a slight slope towards the rails. For our nose riding longboard, I like this, and let's keep it. The purpose of adding a spoon nose is that we flatten the rocker line in the nose part of the board, so that when you're nose riding, you're not pushing so much water. So all this curvature that is there now is actually pushing water. Now if we would just flatten the nose in our rocker, then our rail would look pretty ugly. So that's why we want to create a spoon nose. So the first thing to do is to actually flatten the rocker line in that area. So let's go to the bottom tab. And to flatten our rocker line, we have to add a new control point on our rocker. So where do we add it? We pretty much add it where we want our spoon to begin. So it's pretty much up to you as a shaper to know where it is, but let me add it at 6/4. So let's add a point. Let's go to the 6/4 mark somehow. And when we click it, it creates this point and it maintains our exact curve. Now I want to disable the fitting to guide points for now, because we don't want any accidental auto fitting to the guide points that are there. Now, before we start modifying, it is a good idea to save our board as a reference, and so we can load it in as a ghost file. So let's save this board as a reference. Yep. And now save as a new name. Let's call it spoon. Yep. And now we want to load in a ghost board. Our reference board should be our ghost board. All right. So when we go in the bay, our reference board is exactly the board that we see right now. And when we start changing something, like for example, we start changing our bottom rocker, let's go to the expanded view, and we can see that there is this blue curve, which is our reference. Pretty handy when we later want to make sure that our rail rocker is still adhering to our intentional rocker. So let's undo. We can see that our guide points are not exactly matching. This is because we fitted the single segment through our guide points, which is not an exact fit. So let's update these. Generate from curve. Now they're exactly on our curve. And when we want to refit a portion of our rocker, we want to avoid fitting in this spoon section that we're going to create. So let's remove these guide points. If we're in guide point mode, we can press Control or Command on Mac, and we can remove those guide points. All right. Now it's time to flatten the rocker. So let's go in, flatten it. Yep. And this one as well. What you can see is it's a very significant flattening. It's pretty much up to you how much you want to flatten it. Now this expanded view always gives you an exaggerated impression, of course. So let's turn this off. Now you can see here there is a flattened piece. So this is what we want for our spoon. This flat piece will make sure that if you stand on your nose for nose riding, the board is not pushing water, so it improves the nose riding. Let's go into the bay. Check this. All right, you can see the flattened area. It also flattened our rails. So that's what we'll start changing now. Let's go to slices. Our current slice is dead in the middle. We actually want to move it a little bit closer to where our spoon starts. So let's see, in our bottom rocker, we were at 6.4, so let's go like 6.3 should be fine to move this slice to. So slices, new slice. Since there is only one slice, it's pretty much a copy. 6, what did we say? Let's try 6.2. All right, let's see. Yeah, this is right behind the place where our flattening starts. It should be good. Let's go to the slices. Let's remove this slice. It doesn't do anything. Yeah. I also like to add a slice near our tail, because all the slices in between are interpolated between these two. So to control to have a smooth transition from our tail to our reference slice, we actually want to use as little slices as possible. So add a new one, 2 inches or even 1 inch. Let's go for 1 inch. And in this one, I want to add a little bit of V. Well, there is a little bit of V already. Let's do a little bit more. Make it non-continuous. I like a little bit of a hard edge. Not too much for this longboard, but okay. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, you can see that the darkness, which is the slope, is moving inwards. So you get a nice transition to this V, slightly rolled V into the tail, and a slightly harder edge. Okay. Let's look at our rocker and start adding a concave in the nose. For the nose, we pretty much want to be looking at the deepest point, which would be somewhere around here. Let's take the 8.6 mark. Slices, add a new slice. 8.6. Yeah. Pretty flat. Let's go to our profile view. And we can now drag our tuck line down. You'll see there's some funky things going on here in the transitions where the slices get interpolated, but we'll fix that in a minute. We first want to make sure that our concave is looking the way we like it. So here you can see we create a pretty aggressive concave at the deepest point, and it's been extrapolated, actually interpolated here to the next slice and extrapolated to the nose. Okay. So let's fine-tune this a little bit more. This slice is looking pretty ugly now. We can drag our rail a bit out. This brings our concave in. Let's look at it. Yeah. And let's make this a little bit wider so that we have a bigger area that is flattened. See how this is looking. Yeah. Now you can see our rail line is curved, but is still having some kinks. So let's fix that. To fix it, we go in our profile view and we see where the issue is most exaggerated. So this is around 6.9. So let's go into the slices. Slices, add a new slice. 6.9. Alright, let's take a look in our side view. And we can see it pulled the rail up. Let's bring it down and make it smoothen the transition. This one down a bit. Right. In our nose we have the same problem. So let's create a slice really close to the nose, 9.5. Let's go into our side view. Pull this up. There's a little bit fiddling. We won't recreate the exact rocker, but we'll get it closer to what we like. The bait. And that is starting to look more and more like we want it. Rocker curve is flowing very nice. The expanded view is always exaggerating. So if you see a kink in the expanded view, it will always look a lot better in the 3D bay. Alright. Let's do a little bit more fiddling and then we're done. So let's move this yellow point quite a bit further. Let's go to maybe 6. Yeah. Oh, what did it do? Let's move this down again. Yeah. This should pull our, yeah, what it actually did, it did pull our concave in towards the center. Alright. This is looking like a really nice spoon nose to me, so I hope you like it. I hope you learned something. Check out our new version. Version 2.6 gets you all these new features, expanded view, fitting to the guide points, getting all this coloring to nicely fine-tune your spoon noses, your concaves, and all your other contours. So thanks for watching. See you next time.